Hi everyone, and welcome to this new video. For this, the first project of 2023, I will be making a dress from the BBC 1967 drama The Forsyte Saga. The series was designed by Joan Ellacott, who was one of the top designers at the BBC, and she also had designed for films previously. In the series, it covers the fashion from 1879 to 1926, and I think Joan Ellacott did a really good job at covering these periods and actually showing the different silhouettes for each of the time periods that the series passes through, a lot better than they did in the remake of the series that was done by ITV in the early 2000s. I read the novel of the Forsyte Saga a very long time ago, and in my mind, I had read that this dress was grey in the scene that it's worn in at June and Bosinney's engagement party, and that's how I had always pictured it. But then, years later, I came across another series from the BBC which had been made in 1968, and this had been filmed in colour, and it reuses some of the dresses from the Forsyte Saga, and this was one of them. I was amazed when I saw that the dress was pink, not grey. But recently I have been rereading the novel again, and in the scene it's described as the dress being worn with French grey gloves, and I think that's where my mix-up came with as to what colour the dress was in my memories. About 15 years ago, there was a big range of Joan Ellacott designs for sale on eBay. Several lots were designs for the Forsyte Saga. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford to buy any of them, but I saved all the images, and that's how I have got the image of the design for this dress. Several months ago, if you follow me on any of my social media platforms on Instagram or YouTube, I put up a vote as to which dress you would like me to make from the series, and I gave 4 options, all of them worn by Nyree Dawn Porter, who played Irene, and this was the winning vote, this pink dress that she wears for the engagement party. So I think you've heard enough of me talking about the background of this dress, so let's get into making it, and I'll see you all at the very end with the finished product. One of the advantages of working on something set in the place where you live is that you can actually visit the locations, and Stand-Up Gate is rather a small street here in Mayfair, but you can imagine old Jolyon and June living in one of these houses here, being visited by Soames and Irene for June's engagement party to Bosinney, and wearing this pink dress. I start by dyeing the white velvet pink in the washing machine. The dyeing turned out really well, and I'm really happy with the colour, and it also matches the taffeta perfectly. So to begin with, I've just pinned the skirt pattern onto the mannequin with a mixture of calico just to see how the skirt shape's working, and the open apron drapes, I suppose you'd call them, at the front. I do have the Bustle 1880's Bustle underneath to give you that very distinctive shape, and that's what was drawn on the design. But in the series they don't wear them this big, so I have another idea that I want to try using some pads before I make the final decision if I'm going to use the bustle or the pads for this dress. Here I'm cutting the underskirt in calico. I only use the velvet for the parts that shows. I then sew the skirt panels together and sew the skirt onto the waistband. Next, I cut out the overskirt in the taffeta and the pink lining. Here you can see me sewing the hem facing on the back panel of the overskirt. The overskirt is then sewn onto the waistband also. Here I'm cutting out the skirt ribbons in the velvet and taffeta. I've prepared the ribbons that go down the side of the skirt and I've tacked in the fold lines in pink and white cotton so I know where to make the loops. I then move on to cutting out the bodice pieces, first in calico as a backing fabric and then the pink taffeta as the outer fabric. I seam the back panels of the bodice together first. And then sew in the 4 darts into the front bodice panels. Once the bodice is sewn together, I then insert the spiral boning into the channels. I then move on to cutting out and sewing up the sleeves. To make the bodice straps, I sew a strip of taffeta with a piping cord inserted. I then use this to turn the tube through to the right side, and then I sew on the lace. Finally, I cut out the collar. And here's a completed costume. I'm absolutely thrilled with how she's turned out, even though it took me longer to make than I had planned, as I had originally started this back in, I think it was the end of September in 2022. I think it was worth the wait though. I loved the detailing on it, all the tiny little bows and the bow tails. It's a really clever design and conveys the 1886 look that Joan Ellacott was trying to get across in the series. I did have a message on one of my social media pages when I started this costume saying that why didn't I make something from the later part of the series, from the 1920s. So if that is something that you would like me to do, please drop me a message down below. Thanks again for watching this video, and I'll see you all very soon with another new Hollywood costume.